Divine Frequency is a first-person horror boomer shooter with RPG elements. It's unclear from the demo what the setup is exactly, but the Steam description says you're a trash hobo who will become security software. And there does seem to be something hinky going on with reality, like you're in a digital nightmare or something. Otherwise, the game experience in the demo, you are wandering around a dark sewer, or a labyrinthine compound that's just dark and dirty. You get guns. There are some monstrous enemies that run at you. As you progress, there's some interconnectivity with opening doors to earlier areas. The sound and effect of the guns is satisfying. The recoil kick of the guns is absurd. It does things competently. I'm not sure I'm really compelled to play this one though, even though I like shooters and I like horror. The demo doesn't really do anything wrong, and it has some narrative aspirations, so it could be alright. Murder at the Birch Tree Theater is a point-and-click puzzle murder mystery game. It plays exactly like the Golden Idol games, so you're on a static scene where a death just occurred. You're clicking on objects and people to collect a pool of clues in the form of keywords, which you then use to slot into a sheet describing the events that has many empty spaces. The demo has 2 levels, and the intro screen says the full release will have 10. I wouldn't call the art beautiful or the writing so far sophisticated, but the gameplay is there, and the claim at the end is that subsequent levels will ramp up the complexity. I don't think it's competing in the same space as its inspirations, but the small town community musical theater setting gives it its own identity, ripe for situational mystery. Also, small aside, I like the developer name Crucible Juice. Crucible Juice? Pestilence is a first-person horror game, and it certainly is one of the fuse hunting in the dark games of all time. I only bring this one up because I found it funny. I apparently needed to break the padlock on a locker to progress. I couldn't find any other way forward, so I searched the room for a tool for that purpose. Nothing lying around I could pick up. There's even an opening message from the developer talking about how you really have to pay attention to the environment in this game, and yet I'm looking at a wall of tools in the garage area that I'm just not allowed to use. I don't know what was supposed to be done here, but that was the dead end to my time with Pestilence. Hey, maybe I'm just blind, but to be fair, it was really very dark. Rose Cottage is a point-and-click adventure mystery game. You play a Victorian inspector who is sent to his father-in-law's mortuary manor to investigate the disappearance of several members of its staff. Very comforting, spooky atmosphere. You're alone in a big old fog-shrouded mortuary at night, where supernatural events may be transpiring. I love the look of this game. It's one of those with very detailed art as the backgrounds, and animations on top of that to bring it to life as you move your character through the scenes. Fully voiced cast, quality of life features like being able to highlight interactable elements, and your journal automatically jots down significant clues. So the game won't be challenging you to keep your own comprehensive notes, and therefore might not be overly challenging, but neither will it be likely to waste your time. The demo seems sizable, but I actually stopped playing early because the game had already won me over. The only thing I'd say is that the writing does have a sense of humor, doesn't take itself too seriously, but I hope it manages to maintain a balance of tones and doesn't ever go full comedy. Teeto is a 3D platformer where you play as a small blob, newly created by a rabbit scientist, whose purpose is to absorb all the shadow matter around the land. To that end, you have the ability to take on the properties of objects and elements in the world, like becoming a flower blob to use a vine grapple, or becoming a fire blob to melt a block of ice. And of course, this is also a collectathon, so not only are you collecting stars in each level, but you're also looking for small prototype blob clones called Michaels hidden around. It was a very charming demo, both in its smooth presentation, like writing, UI, the bunny's voice acting, and its solid mechanics and game design. Again, I only had to play the first level to be won over by this one, and I don't know how long the final game will be, so I'm saving as much content as I can to play on release. I did see there's a co-op component to the game, which seems to take the form of split screen. I don't know if I'll ever end up playing that way, because I'm the only one of my friends who plays 3D platformers fiendishly, but it's a definite value add. Herdling is a third-person herding adventure game. I'd also use the word narrative in that it's clearly telling a story, maybe entirely wordlessly, so it's up to you to infer the meaning. Think games like Journey, or Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, or Playdead's side-scrollers. The demo does an excellent job at showcasing the promise here. It is, I assume, just the first half hour of the game, and in that first half hour, it really manages to evoke a certain feeling of melancholy and wonder. The third-person perspective is more pulled out than usual, which is necessary for the herding gameplay, but it also makes the world feel very big. In the initial urban environment, it's an oppressive looming, but then you transition to the open air of the fields, and it's like a call to adventure, which the swelling music really helps a lot with that emotion. The gameplay itself is that you find and tame these woolly animals, who then join your herd, and you act as a sort of rudder to the herd, moving to either side behind to guide them forward. You have to slow them or speed them up to avoid obstacles, and they can help you complete environmental puzzles to make progress. It's unclear what exactly you're doing. It seems like you're generating and using plant life in this endeavor, and there's sort of a primordial undercurrent to what's happening, so maybe we'll find out about that. This developer, Okomotive, are the ones behind the Far games, Lone Sails and Changing Tides. I always meant to check those out, but this seems like a new direction gameplay-wise, if not atmospherically. Antro is a 2.5D running platform spectacle game. I'm not sure where the developer is based, but it's a very Spanish game, despite having English dialogue. Each running platforming segment is set to a Spanish hip-hop track. And I do mean set to. All of your actions, like jumping or sliding, are in time with the rhythm of the beat, which creates an impressive synchronization. The setup is that the surface of Earth is uninhabitable, and the surviving 1% of humanity lives underground. You're a courier who's trying to race and slip through the grip of the authoritarian regime that controls your city. Honestly, probably not a game I'll pick up, but it could definitely have a place in some people's niche. The gameplay does include points of little button-pressing puzzles, and the aesthetic of the setting itself plays out well during your runs. But so much of it being holding right and pressing A didn't really grab me. There was a cool section at the end of, I guess, you getting gassed and you start having hallucinations that warp the level and your perspective, so maybe that's an indication that the rest of the game doesn't remain complacent. inKonbini is a relaxed store simulator game with a focus on character narrative. The demo covers the prologue, in which you're a young woman in 1993 who's taking on a night shift at her aunt's convenience store in Japan. The gameplay is stocking and fixing the shelves, helping customers, and checking them out. Then there's the many stories in this one store that the subtitle promises. I like the art style. It has that sort of soft shading on exaggerated features that reminds me of Kingdom Hearts or something. And although you're beholden to making sure the store is shipshape, the overall tone seems like it'll be relaxing. It also has Japanese voiceover, by the way. Might be a nice time. Eriksholm, The Stolen Dream, is an isometric stealth game with an emphasis on narrative. The opening cutscene was like AAA quality, mocap, voice acting, animation, rendering, which made me go, wait, who are these developers? I think this is River End's first game, but their team is comprised of industry veterans, it seems, so it began to make sense. Anyway, you're a girl in a London-esque city, just recovering from a widespread illness, when her brother comes to be wanted by the police. So you have to slip away, and then begins the stealthing through the streets and alleys and rooftops to try to make it out to where your brother might be. It's nothing new in that regard, but it's very, very solid. You're avoiding the long gaze of the law by crouch walking around their paths, in between obstructions. Sound is important. You can run if you wish. Sometimes there will be levers to pull, or little environmental things to do to progress. And you can find many world-building notes, of course. The first chapter took me just over half an hour, and the demo was still rolling into chapter 2, but I decided to stop there because I'll most likely play this one down the line. Big Hops is a 3D platformer. You play as a young frog who I think is stuck in a gorge with his sister, and they mention a mother at home. So you're trying to leave the gorge, but a strange being comes into the picture and starts playing trickster god on you, which is a conceit to get you to different worlds. Anyway, really quite fun demo here. Very smooth, lots of movement options a la Super Mario. So you can jump, crouch, roll, dive, climb, etc. And perform combos of those, like crouch and roll jumping. And because you're a frog, you can use your tongue to grab items from afar, or pull switches, or swing from floating grapple points. There are also dynamic and interactable environmental objects, like throwable mushroom bounce pads, growing climbable vines, the aforementioned swing points. Later on, you're using thrown objects to hit buttons. And since this game has physics and momentum, you can get up to some crazy movement lines. I'm sure this would be rich for speedrunners, like Mario games are. You also get to a certain area where the game starts playing with gravity, like Super Mario Galaxy or the Milkman Conspiracy level from Psychonauts. Gotta love that. The game looks vibrant and clean. It has full voice acting. I think we're looking at a gem in the genre here. Dimhaven, The Lost Source, which used to be called Dimhaven Enigmas last month, I had to check I had the right Steam page, is a first-person adventure puzzle game. You're a woman who parachutes onto an island that is apparently long abandoned, but she's looking for someone, it seems. I spent a bit on the demo poking around the opening areas and didn't get very far, because these are real puzzles that require a bit of consideration. I like the setting of the run-down island welcome center, at least, and it looks like you'll be ascending to a mysterious old, impossibly placed cliffside castle, so that's cool. The game has nice visuals, and it has those pixel textures on modern models, that kind of style. You can take photos, both to remember clues and to fill out a photo challenge list. Overall, feels like it'll be a good time for us puzzle people of the world. It also immediately demonstrates a nice sense of humor, which is always a good sign for the writing.
Oh no. That's terrible.
The Demons Told Me to Make This Game is a visual novel RPG, I suppose? You're more possessing roles than playing them, but that still fits the acronym. The premise is, you're a temporally non-linear spirit of some sort, who can jump into the bodies of certain individuals during certain events. The why of the matter is unknown in the demo, but in practice, you're acting as these people's conscience, trying to guide them to survive or make the right calls. Helpfully, you can learn from the events you're manipulating, even if your host dies, and try again until it works out. The two characters you can possess during the demo are a man tied to a chair in a trailer, who until recently was apparently a demonic puppet, but who seems very polite otherwise. The other character is the woman who tied him up, seemingly a demon hunter or something, who's looking for her friends in this town. You advise them on dialogue choices, actions, and sometimes to manipulate them into certain things, you have to play a little QTE minigame. Anyway, I felt sort of middle of the road about this game. On one hand, the setup has a lot going for it. You're possessing different people, so you get to see different viewpoints on the same events, and both their external and internal personas. It seems you'll have a good number of options in each scenario, which could lead to replayability if there are multiple paths to various outcomes. There seems to be an overarching narrative explored by your spirit self in the void apart from reality, and the setting, with demonic entities, magic, time travel, I'm into that. On the other hand, the writing is going to be a make or break factor for this game, and right now, I'm not overly impressed. It feels like this is another link in the unyielding, undying chain of the Whedon-esque. Talky, smart aleck characters, humor when the situation should be taken more seriously, a colloquial attitude towards matters of the arcane and macabre in order to appear cool. This game's far from alone in that field, but it might suffer under the yoke of its inspirations. Even something like the title of the game, while I can't fault it because it'll probably draw attention, I just don't really care for the meta yucks. I've gone on longer than I wanted to, but I wanted to articulate the point that this game could go either way, and it'll likely be largely subjective to the player. I did not dislike my experience, I just wasn't won over. Spooky Express is a cute horror-themed puzzle game where you're getting your little track-laying train from start to finish in a small grid-based box. But along the way you have to pick up all monsters and deliver them to their beds before reaching the end. It looks to be a thematic swap of this developer's previous game, Cosmic Express. So, economy of movement, sharp turns with your tracks, you have to make the layout of tracks work for hitting every key point. It's an enjoyable diversion, with a theming I like. I may not buy this one at the end of the day unless it's inexpensive, but this developer clearly knows what they're doing in their niche, based on past games. Hirogami is a third-person action-adventure where you seem to be in a storybook, literally, like you can see a big coffee cup outside the bounds of the overworld. And you're a paper swordsman of sorts, a fansman, doing missions with the overall goal of stopping something called the Blight. Considering the whole world's papercraft, I probably would have called it the Stain or the Shred or something, but the Steam page says it's digital by nature, so maybe not. Anyway, the game is great. A very minor controls hurdle I had to get over at the beginning. The combat strikes aren't flowing, they're more deliberate, and that, combined with the low frame rate animations, took a minute to adjust to. After that, it was smooth sailing, sometimes literally, as you can transform your origami person into a sheet to glide and ride gusts. Later on, you obtain the power to transform into an armadillo, which can roll to break stuff and fight enemies, and solve puzzles. I'm sure you'll get at least a couple more forms based on the UI slots. It was a very straightforward demo, but it's like the first level of the game, maybe, and it was solidly pleasing to play. A nice value addition to the missions are a set of challenges for each, like finding secrets, opening all chests, taking no damage, etc. I could see it being a really well-crafted time, especially considering it's seemingly two Bandai Namco remote studios who were putting together their first independent venture here. I hope you saw something good to wishlist. If you did, or if not, and you think I have atrocious taste, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.